The thunder rolled across the autumn sky as Hayley Griffith ducked into the small neighborhood coffee shop, glancing anxiously over her shoulder. Despite being worth millions, today she wore faded jeans, an oversized hoodie, and sunglasses, a disguise that had become her daily uniform. The coffee shop looked safe enough: chipped mugs, mismatched furniture, and a handwritten menu board. Nothing like the luxury establishments her stalker would expect to find her in. Behind the counter, a tall man with broad shoulders and kind eyes looked up. "Welcome to Joe's. What can I get you?" "Just a black coffee, please." Hayley kept her voice low, still standing close to the door, ready to bolt. The man, his name tag read Connor, nodded, but his gaze lingered on her for an extra moment. Not in the way she'd grown to fear, but with genuine concern. "Coming right up." "Take a seat anywhere. It's not exactly crowded today." As he turned to prepare her drink, the door burst open. A girl of about 8 rushed in, her backpack bouncing and her dark hair a mess from the wind. "Dad, I got 100 on my science test." She ran straight to the counter, waving a paper. The man's face transformed with a proud smile. "That's amazing, Lily. I knew all that studying would pay off." He scooped her up into a quick hug before setting her down. "Homework at the corner table today, okay? I'm off in an hour." As Lily settled at a table pulling out books, Connor brought Hayley's coffee over. "Sorry about that. My daughter's school is just down the block." "Don't apologize," Hayley said, surprising herself with a genuine smile. "It's nice to see." Connor's smile faded as his eyes fixed on something beyond the window. A black car had pulled up, idling across the street. Hayley followed his gaze, her body tensing. She recognized that car. "Friend of yours?" Connor asked lightly, though his posture had changed. "The opposite," Hayley whispered. "I need to go." Connor studied her face. "Back door through the kitchen, leads to the alley. Take it." Without questioning why this stranger was helping her, Hayley slipped behind the counter and through the swinging kitchen door. As it closed behind her, she heard Connor's casual voice. "Just me and my daughter here today, man." "Coffee." Hayley moved quickly through the small kitchen and out the back door, emerging into an alley. She hurried down it, turned the corner, and kept walking, pulling her hood tighter against the rain that had begun to fall. 3 blocks later, she realized she was still clutching the coffee cup. On its side, written in marker, "If you need help, we close at 5. Connor A." For the first time in months, Hayley felt something other than fear. She wasn't sure what it was yet, but it felt dangerously close to hope. Connor Adams wiped down the counter for the 3rd time, glancing at the clock. 5:15 p.m. He'd sent Lily next door to Mrs. Peterson's apartment 15 minutes ago, telling her he needed to finish inventory. It wasn't a complete lie, he did need to count stock, but he also found himself waiting for the woman from this morning. The bell above the door jingled, and Connor looked up, trying not to appear too eager. It was her, still in the hoodie but without the sunglasses now. "You came back," he said simply. "I wasn't sure I would," she admitted, "but I wanted to say thank you. For the coffee or the escape route." His attempt at humor earned him a small smile. "Both. I'm Hayley, by the way." "Connor." "But you probably saw the name tag." He hesitated. "The guy in the car has been following me for 3 months, she finished. "I've filed police reports, hired security, even moved twice. Nothing helps." Connor's jaw tightened. "That's not right." "No, it isn't." Hayley looked around the empty coffee shop. "I don't want to bring my problems to your doorstep. I just wanted to thank you and maybe pay for a new cup." She pulled out her wallet. "Keep it," Connor said. "The cup's on the house, as for your problems." He paused, mentally calculating the risk of what he was about to offer. "I have a friend who works security. Ex-military. Mind if I make a call?" Hayley looked surprised. "You do that for a stranger," Connor shrugged. "My mom raised me to help people when I can. Besides, you look like you could use a break." "That's an understatement." Hayley's shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of her situation visible in her posture. "But why would you risk getting involved?" Connor thought about Lily, about the lessons he wanted to teach her. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. And because if someone was stalking me, I'd hope a stranger would take 5 minutes to make a phone call. The sincerity in his voice made Hayley's eyes glisten. Then yes, please, I'd appreciate that call. As Connor reached for his phone, he noticed Hayley's hands were trembling. Without thinking, he poured 2 cups of coffee and slid one toward her. I know black coffee's your order, but try this. My special blend might help with the nerves. Hayley took a cautious sip. This is really good. Secret recipe, he smiled. Though I'll warn you, my coffee-making skills are the peak of my culinary abilities. Ask Lily about my attempts at pancakes sometime. Hayley laughed a real laugh that seemed to surprise even her. Single dad running a coffee shop, that can't be easy. It's not. But we make it work. Connor dialed a number on his phone. Hey, Derek, got a minute? I've got a situation. As Connor explained the basics to his friend, Hayley studied him. Tall, strong build, with dark hair beginning to gray at the temples despite him only appearing to be in his mid-30s. He spoke with confidence but kindness, the same tone she'd heard him use with his daughter. She hadn't planned on trusting anyone with her situation, especially not a stranger. But something about Connor, maybe the way he'd protected her without question, or how he clearly adored his daughter, made Hayley feel safer than she had in months. When Connor hung up, he looked pleased. Derek can meet us tomorrow. He's good, knows how to handle these situations discreetly. Thank you, Hayley said. I mean it. Don't thank me yet, Connor replied. We haven't solved anything, but we will. The conviction in his voice made her believe him, even if just for a moment. The door jingled again, and a small voice called out, Dad, Mrs. Peterson made cookies. Lily bounded in, stopping short when she saw Hayley. Oh, hello, Lily, this is Hayley. She's a new friend, Connor explained. Hayley, this is my daughter Lily. The science test ace, Hayley said with a smile. Your dad was very proud this morning, Lily beamed. It was about the solar system. I know all the planets, even the dwarf ones that aren't really planets anymore. That's impressive, Hayley said genuinely. Do you know about planets? Lily asked. Not as much as you, I bet, but I did visit the Kennedy Space Center last year. Lily's eyes widened. With the real spaceships, Dad said maybe we could go someday, but it's really far. Connor ruffled his daughter's hair. Someday, Lilybug, when we save up a bit more. The innocence of the exchange struck Hayley deeply. Here was a father doing his best, making promises he intended to keep when circumstances allowed. It was so different from her own life business dealings, investment portfolios, and now this nightmare of being stalked. She'd almost forgotten what simple dreams looked like. Well, Hayley said, standing up, I should go before it gets dark. What time tomorrow? Derek said noon. Is that okay? Perfect. She hesitated. Connor, thank you again, both for the help and for, she glanced at Lily, for reminding me that there are good people out there. As Hayley left, Connor watched her go with an uneasy feeling. She clearly had resources. Her clothes might be casual, but they were quality brands, and her watch alone probably cost more than his monthly rent. Yet something had her running scared, hiding in neighborhood coffee shops. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Dad, Lily said, interrupting his thoughts, is your new friend okay? She looks sad. Connor smiled at his perceptive daughter. She's having a tough time, but we're going to help her. That's what good neighbors do, right? Lily nodded solemnly. Like when Tommy fell off the monkey bars and I got the nurse? Exactly like that. Connor began closing up shop, his mind still on Hayley's haunted expression and the black car that had followed her. Now, tell me about these cookies Mrs. Peterson made. As Lily chattered about chocolate chips and helping to measure the flour, Connor made a mental note to thank Mrs. Peterson with a free coffee tomorrow. A retired teacher. She often watched Lily when the coffee shop kept Connor working late, or when unexpected situations like this one with Hayley arose. Life as a single dad wasn't easy, especially with the coffee shop barely breaking even most months. But moments like this, listening to his daughter's excited voice while knowing he'd done something right today, these made everything worthwhile. The next day, Hayley arrived early. She'd spent the night in yet another hotel, paying cash and using one of her backup phones. She wore a different disguise today, her hair pulled back under a baseball cap, glasses instead of contacts. But Connor recognized her immediately when she walked in. "Morning," he said, sliding a coffee across the counter before she could order. "Black, right?" She smiled, touched that he remembered. "Yes, thank you." The coffee shop was busier today. A few tables were occupied by people typing on laptops or reading. Lily sat at her usual corner table, concentrating on what looked like math homework. "Derek will be here soon," Connor said quietly. "We can talk in the back office." Hayley nodded, taking her coffee to an empty table. She watched Connor work efficient movements, friendly with customers, checking on Lily every few minutes. There was something comforting about his presence, a steadiness she hadn't experienced in a long time. At precisely noon, a man in a dark blue jacket entered. He was shorter than Connor but solidly built, with alert eyes that scanned the room before settling on Connor. "Derek," Connor greeted him, coming around the counter. "Thanks for coming." He led Derek to Hayley's table. "Hayley, this is Derek Mitchell. Former Marine, now runs his own security firm." Derek shook Hayley's hand with a firm grip. "Connor says you've got a stalker situation." "Let's talk in the back," Connor suggested, noticing a customer glance their way with interest. In the small office behind the kitchen, Hayley explained her situation. "His name is Victor Crane. He was an investor in one of my tech companies. We had a brief relationship before I realized he was controlling. When I ended it, he wouldn't accept it. At first, it was just calls and texts. Then flowers delivered everywhere I went. Then he started showing up at meetings, restaurants, even my home." Derek took notes. "And the police?" "I have a restraining order, but it hasn't stopped him. He's wealthy, connected. The police take reports, but without him doing something more than coincidentally being where I am." She trailed off. "You said one of your tech companies," Connor noted. "How many do you have?" Hayley hesitated. 4. I founded my first software company at 22. Sold it at 25. Now I mostly invest and develop new tech." Connor blinked, processing this information. "So you're worth about $70 million, last time my accountant checked," Hayley finished, watching their reactions carefully. Derek whistled low. Connor's expression didn't change much, just a slight widening of the eyes. "That explains why you can hire security and move multiple times," Derek said. "But it also explains why this guy is so persistent. He's not just stalking a woman, he's stalking a successful, wealthy woman." "Money and control," Hayley agreed. "He can't stand that I'm more successful than him and that I rejected him." "I'll need details, photos of him, his car, known addresses, patterns," Derek said professionally. As Hayley pulled out her phone to share information, Connor excused himself. "I should check on the shop and Lily. Take your time." In the main room, Connor moved mechanically through serving customers, his mind whirling. 70 million. The woman he'd been worrying about could buy his coffee shop 100 times over without blinking. Yet she'd been genuinely grateful for his help, appreciative of a simple cup of coffee. Lily bounded up to the counter. "Dad, I finished my math. Can I have a cookie now?" "Sure, Lilybug," Connor said, selecting a chocolate chip cookie from the display case. "How about you take one to Hayley, too?" "She's in the office with Dad's friend." Lily nodded seriously, taking both cookies. As she disappeared into the back, Connor felt a strange mix of emotions. He'd offered to help Hayley because it was the right thing to do because she was a person in trouble. Learning she was wealthy didn't change that, but it did make him acutely aware of the differences in their lives. When Hayley emerged from the office 30 minutes later with Derek, she seemed more relaxed than before. Derek nodded to Connor before leaving, and Hayley approached the counter. "Your friend is very thorough," she said. "And your daughter is very sweet. The cookie was delicious." "Lily's got a good heart," Connor replied, pride evident in his voice. "So did Derek have ideas?" "Several. He's going to start surveillance today, document Victor's movements. Build a stronger case." Hayley twisted her coffee cup nervously. But he also suggested I might need to change my routine more dramatically for a while, lay low somewhere unexpected. Connor sensed what was coming, and you don't have a place in mind. Not exactly, Hayley admitted. Hotels are too obvious. My properties are all known to Victor. I was wondering. If I knew somewhere, Connor finished for her, I might. Let me think about it. Hayley looked relieved. Thank you. I know this is a lot to ask of someone I just met. Sometimes strangers are the best allies, Connor said. Hard for him to predict what he doesn't know exists. As Hayley left with promises to return the next day, Connor watched her go with mixed feelings. He wanted to help that was never in question, but he also had Lily to consider. Bringing someone else's dangerous situation into their lives required careful thought. That evening, after putting Lily to bed with 2 bedtime stories instead of the usual one, Connor called his sister, Claire. Hey, stranger, she answered. To what do I owe this midweek call? I need some advice, Connor said, explaining the situation with Hayley without revealing her wealth. Claire listened without interrupting. So you want to offer her your spare room, she concluded. Is that crazy? I mean, I have Lily to think about. It's not crazy to want to help, Claire said thoughtfully. But you're right to be cautious. What does your gut tell you about this woman? Connor considered the question. That she's genuinely afraid, that she's been handling this alone for too long. That despite having resources, she needs allies. And the stalker. Derek seems to think he's dangerous but calculating, not the type to burst in with violence but persistent and escalating. Claire was quiet for a moment. Remember when Jason left and you thought you had to handle everything alone? Connor tensed at the mention of his ex-husband, who had walked out when Lily was 3. This is different. Is it? You needed help but were too stubborn to ask. Sounds like your Hayley has been doing the same. Claire paused. If you trust your instincts about her, and if Derek will be monitoring the situation, maybe the spare room isn't such a bad idea. But set clear boundaries and be honest with Lily. After hanging up, Connor sat in the quiet apartment, thinking. The spare room had been empty since his mother had stayed with them last Christmas. It wasn't much, just a twin bed, a dresser, and a small desk, but it was private and unknown to anyone looking for Hayley. His instincts told him to help, but his protective nature as a father made him cautious. By the time he went to bed, he had made his decision. The next morning, Connor woke Lily a few minutes early. Lilybug, I need to talk to you about something important. Lily sat up, rubbing her eyes. Is it about your friend who was sad? Connor shouldn't have been surprised at his daughter's perception, but he was. Yes, it is. Hayley is having a problem with someone who won't leave her alone. She needs a safe place to stay for a little while. Like when Tommy kept pulling Sarah's hair even after the teacher said stop. Something like that, but more serious. I'm thinking about letting her stay in our spare room, but since this is your home too, I wanted to ask how you feel about that. Lily considered this with the seriousness of an 8-year-old faced with an adult decision. Well, she read me stories sometimes. Connor smiled. We can ask her, but this would be temporary and we'd need to keep it a secret. No telling friends at school. Like a spy mission. Lily's eyes lit up, sort of, but a very serious one. Connor brushed her hair back from her forehead. If you're not comfortable, we can find another solution. I think she should stay with us, Lily declared. You always say we should help people, and she liked my science test. Connor hugged his daughter, marveling at her simple, clear-hearted view of the world. Then it settled. Let's get you ready for school. When Hayley arrived at the coffee shop later that morning, Connor was ready. He waited until there was a lull in customers before saying, I have a spare room. It's nothing fancy, but no one would think to look for you there. Hayley's eyes widened. You do that. But what about Lily? I talked to her. She's on board with Operation Help Hayley. He smiled slightly. She may have a slightly romanticized view of the situation, but she understands the importance of keeping it secret. Connor, I don't know what to say. Hayley's voice was thick with emotion. I can pay you, of course. No, Connor interrupted firmly. This isn't about money. This is about doing what's right. All I ask is that you respect our home and Lily's routine. Of course, Hayley agreed immediately. I wouldn't dream of disrupting your lives more than I already have. That evening, after the coffee shop closed, Connor led Hayley up the narrow staircase to the apartment above. It was a modest living room with a small kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and the spare room converted from what was probably once a dining area. Like I said, nothing fancy, Connor said, suddenly aware of how simple his home must seem to someone with Hayley's resources. But Hayley was looking around with genuine appreciation. It's lovely, warm. You can feel that it's a home. Lily appeared in her doorway, already in pajamas. Did you bring anything to sleep in? She asked Hayley practically. I have a small bag in my car, Hayley answered with a smile, but thank you for asking. Dad always forgets his toothbrush when we visit Aunt Claire, Lily informed her solemnly. Connor rolled his eyes good-naturedly. Bedtime, spy girl. Say goodnight to Hayley. Good night, Hayley, Lily said, then added, Dad reads really good stories if you want one too. After Lily was tucked in, Connor showed Hayley the spare room and the bathroom they'd share. It's not much privacy, I know. It's perfect, Hayley assured him, and temporary. Derek thinks he'll have enough documentation within a week or two to get the police to take more serious action. Good. Connor hesitated at the door. Hayley, I want to be clear about something. I'm helping because it's the right thing to do, not because I expect anything in return. I never thought otherwise, Hayley said softly, and we keep our lives simple by choice, he continued. I know you have resources that could solve problems, but that's not why you're helping, Hayley finished for him. I understand, Connor. I respect that. As Connor left to retrieve her bag from the car, Hayley looked around the small room that would be her sanctuary. The quilt on the bed was handmade, the furniture mismatched but well cared for. It reminded her of her grandmother's house, before the tech startups, and the millions and the complicated life she now led. For the first time in months, she felt she might actually be able to sleep through the night. The next week established a routine. Connor would open the coffee shop at 6 a.m., then Hayley would come down around 9, disguised differently each day, to work remotely on her laptop. When Lily returned from school, Hayley would help with homework while Connor managed the afternoon rush. Evenings were spent in the apartment, cooking simple meals. Hayley proved to be much better in the kitchen than Connor, playing board games or watching movies. Derek checked in daily, documenting Victor's increasingly frustrated attempts to locate Hayley. Her official story was that she had flown to Europe for business, a fiction maintained by her assistant who continued to manage her calendar and send decoy emails. On the 8th night, after Lily was asleep, Connor and Hayley sat on the small balcony off the living room, sharing a bottle of wine. I called my mother today, Connor said. First time I've mentioned you to her. Oh, Hayley tried to sound casual, though the idea of Connor discussing her with his family made her inexplicably nervous. She wanted to know if you were girlfriend material. He chuckled. She worries about me being alone. What did you tell her? Hayley asked, feeling her pulse quicken slightly. That you were a friend in need, that Lily adores you, that you make much better pancakes than I do. He took a sip of wine. I didn't tell her you're a millionaire tech entrepreneur. Hayley laughed softly. Probably for the best. People tend to act differently when they know. Is that why you didn't mention it right away? Partly, she admitted, but mostly it just wasn't relevant to the situation. I needed help as a person, not as Hayley Griffith, CEO. Connor nodded, understanding. Money complicates things. It does. Hayley looked out at the city lights. You know, I envy you sometimes. Me, Connor sounded genuinely surprised. Why? This life you've built. It's real, meaningful. The coffee shop that serves the neighborhood, the relationship you have with Lily, the friends who show up when you call. She sighed. My world is full of people who want something. Investors, partners, employees, even dating becomes a minefield of ulterior motives. Like Victor, Connor said quietly. Exactly like Victor. He seemed charming, successful on his own terms, but he really wanted access to my connections, my resources. Hayley shook her head. When I ended things, his true nature emerged, the control issues, the entitlement. Connor's hand found hers on the armrest between them. I'm sorry you went through that. No one deserves to feel unsafe. The warmth of his hand sent a flutter through Hayley's chest. She'd noticed her growing attraction to Connor over the past week, how could she not? He was handsome, kind, and possessed a quiet strength she found immensely appealing. But she'd pushed those feelings aside, telling herself it was just gratitude or the unusual circumstance of living in such close quarters. Now, with his hand covering hers and the night quiet around them, she couldn't ignore the connection between them. Connor seemed to realize he was still holding her hand and gently withdrew it. It's getting late. We should probably turn in. Right, Hayley agreed, both relieved and disappointed. Early morning tomorrow. As they cleared their wine glasses, moving around each other in the small kitchen, Hayley felt a sense of domesticity that was both foreign and deeply comforting. In just a week, she had slipped into the rhythms of Connor and Lily's life as if she belonged there. The thought terrified her almost as much as it thrilled her. The next morning, Derek arrived at the coffee shop with news. We've got him, he said, sliding photographs across the table to Hayley and Connor. Clear violations of the restraining order, evidence of him bribing hotel staff for information about you, and most importantly proof, he hacked your private email to track your movements. That's enough for an arrest, Connor asked. The cybercrime alone is federal. My contact at the FBI is preparing to move on this today. Derek looked at Hayley. You'll need to make a formal statement, but you won't have to see him. Hayley felt a wave of relief, followed immediately by a strange sense of loss. With Victor no longer a threat, she would have no reason to stay in Connor's spare room to help Lily with homework, to share quiet evenings on the balcony. That's wonderful news, she managed, not quite meeting Connor's eyes. You've been a huge help, Derek, Connor said, standing to shake his friend's hand. We owe you. Just doing my job, Derek replied, though he accepted the handshake warmly. I'll be in touch once the arrest is made. After Derek left, an awkward silence fell between Connor and Hayley. So, Connor finally said, looks like you'll be able to get back to your normal life soon. Yes, Hayley agreed, though the thought filled her with unexpected sadness. I should probably start making arrangements. Of course. Connor busied himself wiping down an already clean counter. Lily will miss you. Hayley swallowed hard. I'll miss her too, and you. Connor looked up, their eyes meeting. Hayley, the moment was interrupted by the arrival of the morning rush students from the nearby community college flooding in for pre-class caffeine. Connor gave her an apologetic look before turning to serve customers. Hayley retreated upstairs, her emotions in turmoil. In less than 2 weeks, this small apartment had begun to feel more like home than any of her expensive properties. Connor and Lily had become important to her in ways she hadn't anticipated, but what did she have to offer them, really? Her life was complicated, demanding, often public. Connor valued his simple, meaningful existence. Lily needed stability. Would they be better off without the disruption she would inevitably bring? That evening, after receiving confirmation that Victor had been arrested and charged, Hayley made a decision. She would return to her own home tomorrow, giving Connor and Lily back their space and routine. It was the right thing to do, even if it broke her heart a little. She waited until Lily was in bed before telling Connor. I've booked a car for tomorrow morning, she said as they cleaned up after dinner. Now that Victor's in custody, I should get out of your way. Connor stopped drying the dish in his hands. You're not in our way, Hayley. Still, I've imposed long enough. She kept her voice light. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. So that's it. Connor set the dish down with more force than necessary. You go back to your life and we go back to ours. Hayley was taken aback by the edge in his voice. Isn't that what you want? Your home back, your routine restored. Is that what you think I want? Connor ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Hayley, these past 10 days. Lily hasn't stopped talking about you. The apartment feels more alive than it has in years. And I, you what? Hayley asked softly when he didn't continue. I find myself looking forward to evenings more than I have since before Jason left. Sitting with you on the balcony, talking about everything and nothing. He moved closer to her. I know our worlds are different. I know you have a life to get back to, but I'd be lying if I said I wanted things to go back to how they were before you walked into my coffee shop. Hayley's heart raced. Connor, I don't want to disrupt your life. You and Lily have something special, something stable. And you think you'd ruin that? He shook his head. Hayley, you've enhanced it. You help Lily with homework I barely understand. You make her laugh. You make me laugh. But my life is complicated, Hayley protested weakly. The business, the travel, the public scrutiny. So we navigate it together. Connor took her hands in his. Unless I'm misreading this completely and you don't feel the same way. Hayley looked into his eyes, seeing vulnerability beneath the strength she'd come to admire. You're not misreading anything, she whispered. I just don't want you to regret this when you realize how different our worlds are. Maybe they're not as different as you think, Connor said. We both value honesty, hard work, connection. The rest is just details. Pretty significant details, Hayley said, but she was smiling now. We'll figure it out. Connor released one of her hands to touch her cheek. If you want to, Hayley leaned into his touch. I do want to. More than I've wanted anything in a long time. When Connor kissed her, it wasn't like the calculated, showy kisses Victor had given her. It was honest, warm, and held the promise of something real. Something worth building. The sound of a small gasp made them break apart. Lily stood in the hallway, wide-eyed but grinning. I knew it, she exclaimed triumphantly. Mrs. Peterson owes me a cookie, Connor groaned, but he was laughing. Were you betting on us, young lady? Mrs. Peterson said you were being a gentleman. I said you were being slow, Lily explained with the brutal honesty of childhood. Does this mean Hayley isn't leaving? Connor looked at Hayley, the question in his eyes. I think, Hayley said carefully, that I might need to find my own place nearby. But no, I'm not leaving. Not if you and your dad are okay with that. Lily's cheer was answer enough. 6 months later, Hayley stood in Connor's coffee shop, now officially called Connor and Hayley's, watching as contractors installed new equipment. The renovation had been her contribution to their partnership, though Connor had insisted on keeping the mismatched furniture and handwritten menu board that customers loved. What do you think? Connor asked, coming to stand beside her. Too fancy? It's perfect, Hayley assured him. Just enough upgrades to make your life easier, not enough to change the character. He slipped an arm around her waist. Kind of like us, Hayley laughed. Is that how you see our relationship? You got upgraded? We both did. Connor kissed her temple. You got a family. I got a brilliant business partner who happens to make excellent pancakes. From her spot at the corner table, Lily called out, and I got a science tutor and someone who can braid hair properly. Hayley's heart swelled. She'd bought a townhouse 3 blocks away, but spent most nights at Connor's apartment. They were taking things slowly, mindful of Lily's adjustment and the significant changes in both their lives. Her business continued to thrive, though she'd restructured some responsibilities to allow for more time in the city. Connor's coffee shop was doing better than ever, partly due to Hayley's business acumen and partly due to the subtle social media campaign she'd launched. Victor remained in custody awaiting trial, no longer a shadow over her life. Derek had become a friend, occasionally joining them for dinner with his wife. It wasn't perfect, they still navigated the occasional clash of their different worlds, but it was real. And as Connor had said that night in the kitchen, they were figuring it out together. Hey, Connor said softly, drawing her attention back to him. Where'd you go just now? Just thinking about how differently things might have turned out if I hadn't ducked into your coffee shop that day. Fate, Connor said with a smile, or really good coffee? Both, Hayley decided, leaning up to kiss him. Definitely both. As Lily pretended to groan at their display of affection, while secretly smiling, Hayley knew she had found something more valuable than all her millions. A man whose strength had sheltered her, a child who had welcomed her, and a place where she truly belonged. Not because of what she owned or what she'd accomplished, but simply because of who she was. And that, she realized, was the greatest fortune of all.